at last Monday.
Hi, guys. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our Wednesday lectures with Dr. Cohen and Rena, I guess, at
Who
this
was
point,
complaining?
who was complaining about the fires and saying that thank God that we have finished with all the air is
time being.
actually the best quality that has been for a while. So we're very happy. We got some rain. That was really good news. Last night it rained, so it probably helped to put out some fires. So anyhow, welcome to tonight's lecture, and those who coming back know by now the format that we do. Dr. Cohen does the talk. We answer your questions, and at the end, Dr. Cohen will be guiding us through the meditation and answering any other questions that you have. So
There's a number of people that have been calling. I don't know if it'll help, but they can't find us on the new Facebook thing.
yeah, so thank you for those who are tuning in into a public space for Dr. Cohen. I know it's a harder transition for all of us, but we had to do it because Facebook kind of stopped us accepting contact, so we couldn't. We reached the maximum capacity. So most of you got the invites from Facebook page and got the links, from the email. So once you go to the link, Dr. Cohen's page, just click like or follow, whatever button appears, and then this way you're going to get the feeds and it will be in your contacts. So, and if you have any questions, just really email us. We will send you the link, and it's simple and easy. But I apologize for any confusion for any of you that are struggling to find the page. As you know, all the videos are available on our YouTube page, and they always posted and stay on Dr. Cohen's Facebook page. So you guys, as you know, you see wonderful products behind us, and Dr. Cohen is actually very happy with his longevity formula and viral defense formula. Have been amazing. I personally use it myself and for my family, and thank God nobody got sick. I find it's really, really powerful defense if any of you are still looking at that, because virus is not going away, not anytime soon. We're going to be combating that for the next, 6 or 12 months. But Dr. Cohen has some interesting data.
There's a really good scientist who said that we should plan on 75 years.
Well, 75 years looks like a very long
before
time.
It's going to change. No, a very good virologist.
But by then, everybody will get it.
No, nobody. You can get it but not get sick from it.
Yeah.
If you keep taking viral defense and you take the immune enhancement program, we haven't had anybody that got it yet, and people have been exposed.
Yeah.
I mean, people. We have one person in particular. Maybe he's listening tonight, who was positive with that, and then he's over 65 and a lifetime history of asthma and lung disorders. So the virus wants to transfer itself to our biome and create new forms of life.
Yeah.
And if it can complete its journey, there's no reason for us to get sick. We get sick when we get poisoned. And that's a concept I really haven't explained well enough, that it's the poison in the environment that alters the viral load.
Yeah, so we have very interesting lecture, and Dr. Cohen will talk. I guess it's going to be organic flow as usual. We'll start somewhere. We're going to end up, we don't know wherever the
No, I don't know where.
The knowledge takes us, the curiosity takes us, and that's how these lectures work for now. And we mentioned many, many times that if you have an interesting topic, or if you like to do a rerun of a topic and you feel like you want to go deeper, that's also always an option.
And they're also all recorded again, and they can go listen to them again.
Go and listen, re-listen, because the wealth of knowledge that gets downloaded during the session or during the talk, I feel it's impossible to absorb it all. So when you go and re-listen again, you hear a different thing, and you hear it very differently. So Dr. Cohen, take it away. And
that reminds me what happened to me many years ago. I got a phone call from a woman, and she said, I heard a recording of one of your lectures. This maybe 20 years ago. And she says, can I take you out for lunch? I want to talk to you because listening to that recording changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, this is cool. When would you like to go out to lunch? She said, when do you have lunchtime? And I said I had a break from patients from 12:30. And she shows up, and she was a member of the Dykes from Bikes, or whatever, from that San Francisco, on a gigantic Harley with all these, tattoos. And then so she made a picnic lunch that we shared in Golden Gate Park, and we discussed philosophy and life and all that. And
so I think what Dr. Cohen is trying to say, if any of you get inspired by lectures, you can invite him for lunch.
Invite me for lunch. But anyway, so she made lunch. We didn't go out for lunch. And at the end of our time together, she hands me a copy of my lecture, and she says, Dr. Cohen, you need to listen to this. So I listened to it. She said, you'll learn something. And I was listening to it, and I was going, I said that? I really said that? And I started learning things from my own lectures. So anything can trigger off what we need to know. So tonight's lecture was about stress. Now, everybody thinks stress is a bad thing. We all think we die from stress. We get sick from stress. We can't have too much stress. But we don't realize that in the world that we know, including the viral world, that the stress, as long as it's managed properly, enhances our not only physical growth, but our spiritual growth. So stress is, when we take a herb, when you take viral defense, or you take Formula 2, that there's still lots of people still saying it's keeping them from ever getting the flu, is you're getting more resistance to stress. And what does that resistance mean? It means that you're getting what's in the plants, what they use to defend themselves, not only from stress, but toxins and poisons. So in the old days, life grew in the environment because we had all the materials, and the plants knew how to defend themselves by activating their defenses from stress. So stress, now if you're under constant stress, and that you're not rejuvenating and you're not repairing. Remember, nutrients are repair from stress. You don't have the proper nutrients, and you don't have the proper plants, and you don't have the proper lifetime that you're getting not only rest, but you're getting creative outlets. You're not going to survive stress. Now, the virome, where these viruses are, there are, for every space around you, right at this moment, not just the space in the sea or in our bodies or in the environment, there's 31 times the zero. Now I want us just to close our eyes and vision 31 to 0. What does that mean? That means that's thousands of times more than there's stars in the known universe. So we take all the stars in the known universe, we have more viruses in our orbit of our bodies and our psyches and everything than exist. And each virus has truth in it. So each virus is carrying truth, and it's downloading, just like a computer software, It's downloading a program for us to evolve into a higher, more elegant consciousness. So why do we get sick with viruses? Why does our lives get threatened? Why do we have pandemics? Because we've taken a paradise. This earth is a paradise for growing consciousness and evolving physicality to take that consciousness and express it into a higher realm of reality. And what happens? If we look at the pandemic, all the places where the pandemic took off, they were all horribly contaminated and polluted. That's where it took place. Mm. Even I love New York, and New York was terrible. As its places where it's not as bad as it used to be, but it was contaminated. So that means we're not designed to live in filth. We're not designed to live in poison. And one of the things that always had a lot of curiosity, who came up, how did humans come up with the idea that if somebody's sick from living a poisonous life, that lives in an environment that's contaminating and destroying not only our immune system, but our potentiality and the future potential that we have, then how do we continue to evolve? So if you look at the areas that are terribly contaminated in the world, that's where you have these epidemics and pandemics. And we talked about the COVID-19, that it's not the same as every virus we've had before. These viruses are been around in areas that have never had humans before. And then you add on the contamination and the poisons, the man-made poisons, they start expressing realities that are not native to our own evolution. So the COVID-19 will come from an area of the planet that at most of the time that there's been life on this planet, there have never been humans in these areas. And who carries these, which animals, which mammals is probably the better word, which mammals carry that contamination in their bodies? Those are the animals that have adapted over long periods of time to these viruses. They've learned to defend themselves. But humans were never there, so they never were confronted with COVID-19. And COVID-19 has evolved and learned how to defend itself from a predator, and human beings, when confronted, do not have an immune system. I know I'm repeating myself, a lot of you know this by heart. So the idea is, how are we going to not only survive, but how we're going to evolve, how are we going to become more conscious, and how are we going to teach ourselves the true nature of phenomena? That's the question before us, because with viruses, a way for uploading critical information of an evolving, elegant consciousness. So we have the potential of creating a reality that'll be way more gorgeous and beautiful and conscious than we've had before, if we become not only start cleaning up the environment, but cleaning up the internal environment. That in our gut, in our GI tract, we have soil. And the first mistake the human race made was contaminating the soil. We've gone from a minimum of 150 chemicals in growing plants and growing food to now everything is primary 3.
But did you talk about can you talk about the concept that you shared with me just before we started the lecture, the idea about how many viruses we have around our body, and us shifting the perception, what is a virus?
Yeah, that's critical. Because we think of viruses. I mean, most people, when you ask them, and I ask them, when they think of a virus, they think it's alive. Viruses aren't alive. They carry information. They don't give birth. They don't have the abilities to create. They carry information. And they carry the information that we're ready to convert into a life that's so deep, that's deeper than any human being has ever reached. And it's not just humans. The virus is all life. I remember when I was first coming across viruses, and we're talking about how many viruses there are. And we were just guessing how many numbers. You take one drop, you go into the ocean, summertime, you go swimming, and just take one drop, and you got 10 million viruses in that one drop. So life is virus. The virome is downloading information that's giving us the future of how we're going to evolve into something else. But it's not the virus evolving. It's Earth consciousness. It's human consciousness. It's mammalian consciousness. And there's more increasing evidence that there are even more conscious beings on this planet alone than we ever suspected. And that we have the potential to take part in the greatest revolution that ever took place. It also has the potential to wipe us out if we do what some of the people that are looking to make billions of dollars to protect ourselves from the viruses. The viruses are not predators. It's the environment that the viruses live in because of the contamination and pollution that we have fostered on the earth. And we've lost 54% of all wildlife from just 50 years ago. That you have our blood circulation is similar to the ocean. And we've contaminated all that. So we've literally contaminated it. So we're getting altered realities. And the virus we're getting exposed to viruses. How often do people get sick from viruses compared to how many viruses are? I don't think many people can understand the concept of 31 zeros.
So did you guys get it that we have the number of viruses we have around our body is 3 to the power of 31. That means 3 with 31 zeros. So that's almost to me an infinite number that is beyond our comprehension. And what it really tells us that we and viruses live in symbiotic relationship, and we need viruses, as Dr. Cohen mentioned, to conduct the information that gets delivered or transmitted for our growth and development. And do viruses need humans?
They need proteins.
And they need proteins. They get protein from us.
They get from us, but they get it from other forms. not just humans.
They should go vegan. They don't need humans.
Well, they are. I guess they are vegan because
Well, if they're eating human protein, it's not that vegan.
no, they're just the proteins that exist
Yeah,
inside of all life.
yeah.
If they don't get the proteins, they cease to exist. So if you notice that we've gone step by step, uh, and we're now at the point where we realize that it's not just us hanging out, meditating and taking supplements and taking um, medicines. It's really us beginning to learn our own consciousness and potential. And doing that, Rena had a giant part in creating the viral defense, because at that point we weren't sure whether life on this planet would continue to exist with this pandemic, especially when we figured out we have no memory. We were exposed to something that we had zero memory.
Yeah.
And we had to create the tools. And you can call them medicines or you can call them life forms. The plants themselves are evolving. But the big mistake we're making is the idea of poisoning.
You know that, and can you actually share with our listeners, Kerry Bones' lecture yesterday that we listened, he brought up a very interesting point about viruses and after effects of the virus. And I think a lot of our listeners, will connect to that, of this post-viral fatigue syndrome and ways to overcome that, because some of us may not even know that we had the virus.
How many women, you tell me, I don't even know if I know the answer. How many women during pregnancy have to go through a period of fatigue?
I think most of them.
And that's what we're going through with the virus. It's like a pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And what can make us stronger? There's certain herbs that we put in the formulas. But it's not just getting the right herbs, but it's getting them from the right soil. The soil is where we have our microbiome. What is the microbiome? That's the virome. There's the bacteriophage, where certain bacteria make viruses. Fungi. All these make up who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read some of the research in the last year or two from Harvard, they're talking about we've created communities inside us of addicts. Literally. They get addicted.
Certain foods and
certain poisons. The sugar is a big one, but also man-made chemicals. Because they don't have defense. Life does not have defense with some of the concoctions that human beings have come up with. They have scientists, brilliant scientists, working on creating products that we can't resist. Mm-hmm. It's all based on sales. They're not real food. What is real food? What is food that repairs what we break every day? Every day we break ourselves down and we have to rebuild what we broke. What is real food then? It's the building blocks that we need not only for function, but we need for replacement and repair. Now, one of the questions that was before my generation, right before it, was asked, who came up with the idea that we can poison people? Because literally, the microbiome is vast. And that's where consciousness comes place.
Mm-hmm.
And these viruses, what are they? The messenger and retro RNA. They carry the information to, if you want to build an extension to your house, you need a plan. And the RNA comes from the DNA, and it gives us the plan on how to evolve and what we need to build. But if we don't use it properly, and we're not getting the proper nutrients, we're breaking things down, and then we're having negative effects from what we've destroyed in our own bodies, because what's going on in our own body is the same as what's going on outside our body.
So it's the same
Exactly
phenomenon.
the same. So if we're not having the proper nutrients, those are the tools we need to repair what we break. And life is 50-50. If we were all healthy and happy and we weren't boiling to death like we were last week and trying to breathe through toxic smoke, we would, that same day that we break things down in our internal environment, we would be able to repair what we broke. And that's the balance between anabolic and catabolic. So catabolic, we make energy and we search our bodies for spare parts. And anabolic is when we make babies and start rebuilding what we break. Now, who came up with the idea, and I think that was in the 1800s, I believe, that you can poison people, give them products that are not real nutrients, and then when they get sick, we can sell them more poisons so they don't feel and become disabled from the poisons they took in the first place. We're not designed to be poisoned. And if there's any doubts about it, people that refuse to look at that reality, look what's falling apart. We're worried about healthcare, yet a big part of healthcare is poisoning people. And I'm not talking about emergency medicine. I'm talking about lifestyle medicine. How do we just not only survive, but how do we evolve in a reality that's dominated by poison, by eating things that are poisonous for us? It's crazy. We need whole nutrition. What about relationships? We need whole relationships. If you're damaged and you're in a relationship with the person that you're trying to have a relationship is damaged, and they see you as a tool to compensate for the damage they have in themselves, and they don't have the knowledge or the wherewithal, but they have toxic emotions they want to give to everybody around them, and then we wonder why they start to break down. When each virus, the virome, contains the information that we need to download to learn to compensate for this reality that we're living in. It's like software. I'm probably not the right one to talk about software, but that's pretty much what it is. We are definitely evolving, and how we evolve and how do we survive, not just humans, It's all life forms.
Hmm.
And everybody thinks, well, Dr. Cohen, can you give me something to kill the virus? You can't kill the virus. It's not alive. Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't something have to be alive for you to kill it? Can you kill information? The only way you kill information is by lying to somebody or selling them something that's not real. It's not, it doesn't, it doesn't exist by itself. So the idea to make chemical poisons to kill life forms that are trying to guide us on how to survive this reality that's emerging, and it's no surprise. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've been exposed to over my adulthood that knew exactly what's happening was going to happen. What is climate change? It means that the climate of the Earth has gotten altered, and it's heading towards where it won't be able to sustain life unless we alter our lives, not just human lives. There are dolphins, for example, can teach us unique ways to heal conditions that can't sustain life unless we kill all the dolphins. And each food, we need a lot of food. I remember when I used to teach about nutrition, and we talked about the in the the human gut, the the biome, it carries each nutrient in here. And we thought if you have healthy nutrients, so eat a healthy diet, eat all the, make sure you have lots of fruits, vegetables, you eat food that grows in very rich and healthy. And then we suddenly discovered that the membranes that protect us from life, from altered life, each have what's called villi, like hair-like structures. And so when we have something from our gut, it takes it from the gut and carries it into the bloodstream. And there's lots of villi. We thought that all the villi were, this was a while back, we thought each villi could handle all the healthy nutrients. But that's wrong. Each villi sticking out of our gut lining is separate nutrients. So a healthy diet is a variety of key nutrients that have both catabolic and anabolic traits. So just eating a healthy diet is not going to do it. A diet without something that came from nature, that in and of itself was guided how to form so it can support life. It's looking now with the new knowledge coming out of the biome that we're downloading information so we can cooperate and help all of life to survive. And what we think is consciousness, and I don't want to go back and talk about the shikimate pathway and all that with the glyphosate, but that all of life has learned to adapt to madness. And if it's conscious, it's learned to protect itself. So it's not the viruses. The viruses are not alive. They're not conscious. They carry information. And one of the great pleasures of my life was studying Tibetan medicine because it was so integrated with the idea of evolving consciousness. And the first sentence in Tibetan medicine was, not all pathology begins not knowing the true nature of phenomena. So if we learn the true nature of phenomena, it's pretty scary, because that means we have a tremendous responsibility. That phenomena will drive us past what we think we're capable of. The phenomena of life. All life, as we talked about months ago, all life wants to perpetuate itself. So what are the things you have to do? You need to bathe yourself in very potent natural substances. So you become super strong, and you can guide yourself through all the difficult challenges that we're having now. So that means herbs that evolved over billions of years in nature and have learned to survive and defend themselves. It means lifestyle that includes not only appreciating who you are, but appreciating what effect you have on other life. No life exists without you, and you don't exist without life. And we need all of life. And that if we learn to work with life, we'll experience something that's beyond our comprehension today. I mean, we think we're so smart that we go to medical school, we treat patients, people tell us how much we've helped them and didn't help them. But do we know that if we blow at a certain frequency into a tumor, that the tumor will start to dissipate because it will lose its reason for its own existence? That's not human. That's dolphin. Dolphins have that ability. The vibrational frequencies. Their temporal lobe, where we believe that the hippocampus and our ability to manage stress is 500 times, I think, 500 times more evolved than human temporal lobe, which gives them an unusual ability to relate to life. And what do? We slaughter them and create more toxicity. If your temporal lobe, and many, I work with that very, very closely, that's part of the meditation, and the frequency for meditation is activating. I think some of you have taken glia, which is the type of cells that clean up our nervous system, but also the glia cells are where we expand and protect and express ourselves. And when I was a kid, we were told that if you go have a beer, you're killing your brain cells, and that you're given a certain finite amount. That turned out to be complete ignorance, that we are making in the hippocampus, which is one of the richest areas of the brain with cortisol receptors, where all memory comes from, that we can rejuvenate, but not only rejuvenate, but evolve the nervous system, and that's through the glia cells. So we've had people that have had brain damage, loss of memory, but worse is that they forget who they are. And they respond to glia. Go ahead.
No, it's just coming back to original idea of, so how do we live without stress that is impounded
You
on
can't
us?
live without stress. That's the big
How do
tough.
we live with stress? How do we thrive? How do we survive?
Well, I've had the honor of knowing some of the greatest musicians of my time, and they ask that same question: how do people live without music? What stress is just a vibration. It's how we respond. People get addicted to stress because they get addicted to the excitement. But that's not how we're supposed to live. We're supposed to get excited and become creative and use it properly in learning the true nature of phenomena. I mean, I've heard great musicians that boggled my mind. I mean, I've had great musicians that musically could express, they never went to high school, can express quantum physics perfectly in sound. No, it's been translated. They did.
I believe you.
You know, and some of them had trouble with substance abuse. Some of them didn't. And if they didn't have problems with substance abuse, they would have even gone further. That everyone here has overcome impossible odds, and therefore, if they stop poisoning themselves and feeling inadequate because they don't have what other people have or other beings have, you know, they can have an existence that goes on lifetimes, and that's not limited by time and space as we know it. Because the 31 zeros are more information than life is capable of producing.
Mm.
There's no limits. And instead, we're worried. We have short lifetimes, and we're worried about security. And if we go into a crisis, if you understand Einstein, the reality will unfold on itself and create more possibilities. There's no limit, as long as we organize it correctly and stay potent and keep learning. Because when you learn and you have a pathway and you can feel how you're part of something that's so broad and it's going to keep evolving, you won't worry about survival.
Is there a herb that supports learning or receptivity to learning? I just thought about that.
There is. Anything that works on the temporal lobe.
Which is for those who are not doctors, right?
No, not doctors. I mean, a lot of people know neurosciences that are not doctors. So, I mean, one of the major herbs, I mean, there's multiple herbs, but it depends on which area you're from. The herbs that support our ability to evolve and the ability to shed poisons that make us vulnerable. Okay, so we want to, of course, what time is it?
We want to start wrapping up.
7. Any questions? I didn't look, I'm sorry.
No questions.
There's questions. Got memory.
Oh, Marion, just can memory loss be connected to anesthesia, and how to differentiate between healthy and unhealthy stress?
Yeah, I wouldn't waste your time trying to differentiate. I would try to.
Doesn't matter, Mariam. If it's stress, it's stress. It's all need to be addressed.
If you feel peaceful and productive, and many of us, I'm not going to mention any names, are carrying the history of our ancestors, the epigenetics, and our stress is not even our own. A lot of it can be the stress of your great grandparents.
But there must be a way to get rid of that.
Why would you want to get rid of it?
Why would I want the stress of my grandparents? What benefit is that?
Who said there's a benefit? The way you don't get rid of it, you make it your ally. You make it your guide. It stayed there to teach you. And a lot of times, I think we don't have time tonight, but I talked about the Gaudi defect in mice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Talks about epigenetics, yeah.
the epigenetics. It's epigenetics. That the histone, it attaches to the gene, and then you can alter the consciousness around you by changing the choices you make. So trying to get rid of something is like taking a drug. You're not getting rid of it. Nothing disappears. But you end up with the delusion that because you're not conscious, it's not happening. But it's happening, but you're just too ignorant to know it's happening, and you have very minimal influence over it. The key is to be conscious and make the right choices and keep improving on it. But you're not going to get rid of it because it's life. Kill the viruses. I mean, you'll be busy for eons. You know, the books. So what does meditation do? Why is that so important to make us successful in our becoming key players in the fabric of life? Key players that we can exchange information. If you're stressed out, not always, but if you're stressed out, your experience of life will go so fast you won't know exactly what happened. You'll look back and say, God, what was I doing? What didn't I do? What did I do that? And that means to be conscious. That means that when you're conscious and you're participating, you're downloading ways to be even more conscious. And we know in physics that the heavier something out becomes, the heaviness allows experience, but the heaviness also, the faster we go, we become unconscious.
So you're saying meditation will help us to slow down and be more conscious?
More conscious, I don't know about slow down. As far as I know, there's only 24 on this planet, 24 hours and 24, 7 days a week, and it's our perception of it. What did the Siddhartha about sitting for years by the river?
Mm-hmm. Siddhartha, Buddha.
Yeah. And it took him how many years to slow down? So he can sit there and watch the river. He had to learn to go without food.
I always wonder. I don't know how long it took him to reach his enlightenment.
It was years. It was years.
Yeah, but how many years with anybody?
Well, they say it's over 8 years. But what is enlightenment? Is you can get enlightened in a second. When you realize that everything is there, and it's always been there, always will be there. It's just who we think or we are won't be there. So hopefully we'll download the enough information to accommodate our need to become more evolved and more productive and more compassionate and more loving, and that we start not only learning to love this planet which is alive, but loving all the people that we think is our enemies or people that did us harm.
So I think we should answer Marion's question. Can memory loss be associated with anesthesia?
I mean the drug in it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So Marion, the answer is yes. I think we're all ready for meditation. We're getting close to the top of the hour.
Okay.
So everybody.
Any last questions?
No.
Before we run out of time? Okay. All right, since that number came up, I thought it's interesting that it's 30, number 31 and the amount of viruses. And that we have so many life forms living inside us that are not us, a part of our biome. So the major question is, with all this life around us, and we live on a planet that has infinite variety of life forms, what's our place with that? How important are we as individuals? Are we part of the planet? Can we benefit from the plant world? Can we benefit from relationships? What happens if we're in a relationship that makes us miserable? Do we walk out and leave it alone, or do we try to improve it? If you think that each part of the virome that floats around us at numbers that are so vast that our brain is not designed to comprehend that, that trying to make it as an individual event, we basically need to experience it as part of the infinite fabric of life. And keeping in mind that the life will change based on the stresses we put on life. So I would like everybody to see themselves differently. And take a few moments and seeing yourself experiencing an infinite, peaceful download of elegant, infinite consciousness that allows us to have unobstructed experiences and create realities that express the true nature of phenomena, that there are no boundaries, there are no limit to universes, that there are multiverses, there's no limit to the families, and that we're stewards. And the more we protect it and download it into our consciousness, into our hippocampus, which is directly tied to our adrenals, the stress and the virome, that we become vehicles for downloading the truths that have no limits. Keeping in mind the truth is what we receive, and the trust is how we exist, and the gratitude is the energy that causes our evolvement, and the love is the preciousness of what we have to offer all of life. Take a few moments. Just allow yourself to experience this, to be downloaded into your consciousness. Remember, you're protected. You've overcome impossible obstacles to have this experience. Just allow it to get planted in your own biome. Allow it to become part of the virome that is exported from you to everything that had contact with you at some time in time. Take a few moments, and I'll join you shortly. Now take a few moments. Allow yourself to feel blessed and protected and guided from beings that have been through this before and feel comfortable and giving you the blessings and knowledge that you need to go to the next steps to experience what hasn't been experienced before. Just feel how lucky you are, how fortunate you are. And look how many have sacrificed their well-being for you to have the necessary consciousness to experience the essence of not local, elegant nature of phenomena. And allow yourself to experience that that phenomena is not enclosed in a limited area. It's non-local. And it can be expressed anywhere. Take a few moments and I'll join you shortly. Now pay attention how the life force that contains all the information you need to build a more unobstructed reality flows in you and out of you. And you're capable of making the proper choices of nutrition, ingesting the best this planet has to offer you so you can evolve and protect yourself. And that life contains many forms of existence. And notice that the poisons that you carried around from not fully understanding of what you had to forgive and let go will guide you to an existence that touches beings capable of taking what you have to offer and converting it to the ultimate life force, which exists without limits and allows us to be the destiny that we were born to express. And when we accept that, our healing powers evolves and grows. Let the breath go in you. Feel comfortable. Be guided by truth. Trust the truth. Be grateful for your life. Recognize all the love that's in every part of your psyche and every part of your 5 souls, or your 5 aspects of soul. And if you can do that, your potential will be unlimited. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Taking a deep breath. Allow your week to introduce you to a more unobstructed reality. May you be blessed with peace, compassion, the ability to express what you need to be. Healthy, giving, and loving. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. And we'll join again next week. 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday, California. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.